wherever two or three are gathered, there is an organizational movement. But Bob's with us today. He is one of the founders of Common Ground, which is a faith-based organizing movement that has had a lot of traction and been really, I'd say, at the forefront in the news, making actions against West Eden's Mortgage Company, for one, but also with the movement for the Fair Play campaign towards more parks and park reclamation. And then also, you guys do some work with guns, right?
Yeah, do not deny by.
And so I thought that feels like it's a contemporary topic as well. So we'll leave it to you to take us where you will. And
okay.
But glad to have you with us as we kind of learn more about what Common Ground is doing and if there's ways for us to be involved as well. So
good, thanks. Pastor. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Everybody got their Lutheran communion?
We do.
I got mine as soon as I hit the church door. Well, let me tell you who I am, and then I want to find out who you are, and I want to find out what you want to talk about. I could talk all day about Common Ground, but I won't, because as soon as I'm done here, I'm going golfing. So I always golf when the Packers play. And it's a good strategy I've learned to employ over a couple of years. I'm a volunteer with Common Ground. I spend a good number of hours a week on Common Ground activities. I live downtown. I used to live here in Wauwatosa, and I got involved with Common Ground because I used to be a community organizer. There's a man who's sort of the grandfather of community organizing. His name is Saul Olinsky. I met him in 1972 in Pittsburgh, which is my hometown. And when I was in college here at Marquette, 67 to 71, I read everything he ever wrote. And I loved his practicality. He stirred the pot. You know, people thought he was controversial. Yeah, so what? But he was practical about changing the world. He wasn't ideological. I abhor ideology that makes you rigid and makes you politically narrow. I describe myself as a morally outraged political moderate. And Common Ground prides itself on being a moderate organization that tries to get things done. So that's my social heart, that's my social world. I was a community organizer for 10 years. In my early 30s, I transitioned out of that and started a company with another gentleman called the James Company. And we help churches and religious nonprofits raise money. I've done it for 30 years. I'm semi-retired now, though. I only take on certain projects. But your church is one of our clients. We've helped you a number of times raise money. Church next door, church over there, every church in Wauwatosa we work with, so we're blessed in that regard. But I semi-retired so that I could become more politically active again, in the best sense of the word, politics. And so that's why I volunteer all these many hours with Common Ground. I'm on the board of directors. I organized the campaign that we did around foreclosure. I organized the campaign we did around health insurance. We started our own health insurance cooperative. I helped to organize the campaign around Fair Play, which dealt with the Milwaukee Bucks public subsidy. And I'm involved in most everything that we do. So I can talk about Common Ground all day. I can talk about social ministry all day. I can talk about why the Jesuits ruined my life by teaching me that you ought to change the world instead of just sitting by if you think you're a Christian. But let me find out who you are and find out what you'd like to talk about or why you came today. So just tell me your first name and tell me why you came today.
My name is Mary Beth, and I wanted to find out more about Common Ground. I'm on the social ministry committee and have heard about it, but don't know a lot about it. So that's why I'm here.
Okay.
I'm Diane. I'm also on the social ministry committee.
You all sit together, right?
Yeah.
This is the social ministry wing.
The row. So largely the same thing. I've heard of Common Ground, know a little bit about what you do.
Okay.
And have read a few things about what you do, but I'm not real sure the extent of what you do.
Okay. Curiosity. Good.
Curiosity.
Hi, I'm Petey. I am not on social ministry.
Oh no, they let you sit beside you.
Some of my best friends are. And I too am woefully ignorant about Common Ground, but I think the issue that's most on my mind right now is gun legislation.
Guns, okay,
Mhm.
we'll talk about that. That's
Right.
one of our newest campaigns.
Right.
We were in front of the White House this week, telling the president to stop whining and do something. It's got some good reactions, it was quite fun. Sir?
I came because I was curious, and my wife said, "Why don't you go in and listen so that I know what?"
Oh, so you're here for your wife?
Yeah, she's sitting in their Friends of Luther Manor table, you see.
Oh, I see, okay. And what's your name, sir?
Harvin,
Harvin, great, nice to meet you.
nice to meet you.
Anything particular you want me to talk about?
No, I'm curious to learn.
Okay,
Whatever you say is great.
thank you. Well, we'll judge that in just a few minutes. You may have spoken too quickly.
No, I'm sure I have.
Sir?
My name is Dave. I'm here for just general interest, I guess, overall interest. I'm more interested in a lot of social things happening more often.
Okay, good. Thank you. Pastor, anything you want to
I
talk
think
about?
I'm interested in the gun stuff, and I hear a lot in the Common Ground. Moral outrage is kind of a buzz phrase that I hear a lot. So I would like to unpack a little bit about what moral outrage is for you and to you, and how that plays in the process.
Good. So my moral outrage has become a buzzword.
Oh,
You're gonna have to come up with new words.
No.
I like that one.
Yes,
My
sir.
name's Dave, and always interested in learning more about what's going on in Milwaukee to facilitate social change.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm Kayla, what he said.
What he said. Okay. Why does that interest you, social change?
Same thing. I was ruined, growing up by Jesuits. And
Were you? They do that to you, don't they?
overall.
They do that to you. Where did you go to school?
Out east, I grew up in Boston.
So did you go to the Boston Latin School?
No, Matanon. It's a Catholic school in Cambridge.
Oh, Cambridge, yeah. Okay. I have a friend that teaches it, who was the president of St. John's Prep
Okay. Yeah.
up in Danvers.
Yeah, they used to always beat us on the cross.
Yeah, right. Terrible people.
Yeah.
I'm Connor, and I'm interested in social justice too. I'm involved with MICA.
Oh yeah, I've met you before.
Yeah, and, and I appreciate the work that Common Ground is doing. And some people say to me, "Well, is it MICA or is it Common Ground? Which is the better?" And there's such a dearth, there's such a need for social justice. And
Sure.
there's so many areas that it can be impacted on that I come to admire a lot the work that Common Ground is doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and my church, Jesu Parish, belongs to both. So there's room. You're absolutely right. Michael?
My name is Michael. I'm Marquette grad as well, and
Where are you? MU Rob?
right. Yeah, yeah. And I'm just more interested in just hearing just more about Common Ground and learning about the areas that you've had success in and areas you've been able to areas you want to grow into in the future.
Okay, good. Sir?
I'm Paul. Like many others here, I'm interested to learn more about Common Ground and your involvement with the community.
Okay, all right.
I'm Lynn, and same as everyone else is saying.
Okay, are you involved in social ministry committee?
No.
Oh, okay, because I thought if you were, you sat in the wrong chair. I know churches. Huh?
Same thing. I want to learn more.
What's your name?
Danny Thomas.
Okay. Danny Thomas?
Yeah.
Me, Danny Thomas? Oh my God, his clone, he's resurrected. Sir?
My name is Brian. And
you come, or are you just required to be here so you can videotape?
Both.
So let's all turn and wave to the camera. Anything you want to talk about? So you're not bored standing behind the camera?
I'm definitely interested in the work currently around gun violence, but I'm also curious because with the different groups that you've mentioned, which I've heard about and I did not know were all related to Common Ground, how does something new like that get started?
Okay.
I'm curious.
All right, good. Anybody forget anything? All right, so I brought some propaganda, which everybody always brings. Here's our annual report, which lists all of our campaigns. And here's a flyer for our next delegates assembly, which is November the 4th. But this we have tons of, and this is the overview sheet, which gives you a little bit of the basics of what the organization is. So let me cover some of the mechanics, and then we'll get into the fun stuff, which are the issue campaigns. So the mission statement of Common Ground that I use is, the mission of Common Ground is to build nonpartisan political power to strengthen the common good. That's our mission. That's why we organize, that's what we do. Nonpartisan political power to strengthen the common good. So each one of those words has a definition. Common good meaning the greatest good for the greatest number, or the greatest good for all, not just a few. So that gets us into the whole realm of how do you define common good, what is justice, what is fair, what is equitable, all the values that we talk about, but in the real world are very hard to implement. So when I was at Marquette studying theology, there was a woman by the name of Pauline Turner who was the assistant head of the theology department. And she's the first person in my life after 4 years of Jesuit high school seminary who ever taught me the word social justice, that if you believe in heaven, you have to make it here. And you have to go out and do something about it. You can't just sit back and pontificate or worry about what's going to happen in the next life, if there is such a thing. So that's what she taught me, and that was very, very, very dramatic for me because it was something that I had never been taught before. I was always taught, well, what you're supposed to do is be good and do good. So when I was in the seminary in high school, we get Thanksgiving baskets, and we do a lot of charitable work, and it was great. It made you feel good. Hopefully you were helping other people. But then when I went to college, it was like, oh, wait a minute, no. You should be out there trying to change the world. So strengthening the common good is what we're about. Nonpartisan political power is the vehicle. So we're nonpartisan, we don't endorse candidates, we expect candidates to endorse us. So we're going to be very active in the spring elections in this city, in particular around investing the same kind of money that was put into the Bucks Arena, $80 million on the part of the city, in our neighborhoods. So we're developing a platform in January. We're going to have 1,000 people come together to have a candidate forum. We're going to make candidates pledge to us, pledge to support our platform for Neighborhoods Now, which will strengthen the city, strengthen our neighborhoods, and not just subsidize billionaires who want to build basketball arenas. So you sense my moral anger there?
Outrage.
It was a good campaign, though. So we're nonpartisan, but we also understand two important words: political and power. Politics comes from the word polis, the Greek word which means the city. So politics is about governing the city. And politics is everywhere, and it's not a bad thing. It's a necessary thing if you're going to have more than two people in a room. If you have more than two people in a room, you're political. Anybody ever been married? Or had a family? Or been part of a family? Everything in the world is politics, because it's about how do we govern ourselves? How do we get along? How do we make decisions? That's politics. Power comes from the Latin word posse, which means the ability to act. So power can be used for good or bad. Power is not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's how we use it that counts. We're very interested in power for several reasons. One, most Americans, most people in Milwaukee, most people in the suburbs do not understand how the world works. For example, most people in this country do not understand why our economy collapsed in 2008. They don't. You ask them, why does our economy collapse? And they can't give you an explanation of why the whole country fell apart. We can, because we've studied it. If you want to understand it, read the book called The Big Short by Michael Lewis. Have any of you ever read it? Okay. That's how our economy fell apart. People like Deutsche Bank, people like Bank of America, people like Goldman Sachs, people like Lehman Brothers. And what they were doing in the housing market and what they were doing in the speculating market is what brought our economy down. So, we want to understand how power works, and we want to understand how ordinary people have more power so that democracy works. Democracy does not work well when a few people make the decisions. We think that democracy works when lots of people are involved in decision making. And so what this really is civics for adults. You know, the civics that you learned in high school or college. Any of you had to have a civics class in high school? You know, it's nice. You know, how often does the Congress get elected and how many houses of Congress are? It's fine. But nobody ever teaches you in high school or college, and I know this because I teach a class at Marquette in community organizing, and these students, God bless them, don't blame them, they're politically naive. They have no clue how the world works politically and the real world of how money works. And so the great thing about Common Ground and what we try to do with ourselves and our other leaders is do Civics 201, which is real world civics about understanding how things really work. I'll tell you a real quick story. I'll tell you lots of stories to illustrate this, but here's one good example. When we organize, we have a strategy, and so every word I just described to you, I will now illustrate with a very simple story. We have a young organizer. Her name is Kathleen Petrone. I found her in my class at Marquette. We worked with her, recruited her, trained her. She's now 27 years old. She's been with us for 6 years. She's about to be promoted to another city, but she's a wonderful human being and a good organizer. Common Ground historically has not had a strong base on the south side of Milwaukee. So we said, Kathleen, we got to build a political base. We got to find leaders and organizations that want to do something on the south side. Go down there. And she did. She didn't know anybody. She did 550 relational meetings over a period of months. That's the way we organize, one-to-one, face-to-face. You cannot organize people on Facebook or social media. You cannot do that. People think you can, and for a little bit you might have a little movement-y thing, and they might give you crowdfunding, but that is not organizing. Organizing is building relationships with people who want to act on their interests to make the common good stronger. She went down and did 550 relational meetings, and then we do a series of house meetings where we find leaders who say, I'm very concerned about things, and we say, okay, pull some of your neighbors together and let's see what everybody's concerned about. So she did 550 face-to-face meetings, found about 50 leaders that really want to do something. There's your margin, 10%. And those 50 people went and did other house meetings, we call them, or group gatherings, another 250 people. 2 issues emerged for us to campaign around on the south side. One was, in the city of Milwaukee, there's an ordinance that says that if a school bus comes to a stop, it doesn't have to put out its stop arm. You know those arms that are on the sides of buses? You do not have to put it out. Don't ask me why. You do not have to put it out. And our parents down there were saying that they've seen lots of examples of kids almost hit and killed or injured because these stop arms are not out. So that was the first issue. The second issue is that there are not enough facilities for soccer on the south side. There are tennis courts, but nobody plays tennis on the south side. They need soccer courts, outdoor and indoor. There are 2,000 kids, part of the groups that we're working with, that play indoor soccer all winter, and they have no place to play. So those are our 2 campaigns. That's what leaders are interested in. What we know how to do is organize leaders to act on their interests. And our power is the ability to organize lots of people to act on their interests. So those are our 2 campaigns. So in order to act on the issue of the school buses, we had a meeting at one of the parks downtown, on the south side in August, and we had 350 people show up. And we invited 3 aldermen from the south side, and we said to the aldermen, we want the school bus ordinance in this town changed. Will you support us, yes or no? And we put them in front of 350 people, and 3 of them showed up, 2 of them didn't. 350 people, 2 of them didn't even show up. We got the 3 that showed up to agree to us, yes, we're going to support you on the ordinance. Great. So we began organizing people after this 350-person rally, to go to City Hall and to appear before the Public Safety Committee and to fight for a an ordinance that will force these stop arms to go out. Well, the chairman of the committee, Alderman Wojtkowski, doesn't like it. And he doesn't want to do it. And so we had to force him to have the hearing, and we brought in the AAA. The AAA supports it. They came down with us. Children's Hospital supports it. They came down with us. We met with the traffic managers for the city, and they wanted a couple of changes. We said, fine. They supported it. Alderman Wojtkowski doesn't like it. So he at the last minute, he hoodwinked somebody from MPS and somebody from the police department to come in and oppose it, kind of bullied them into doing it. He also brought in Lammer's Bus Company to oppose it. And we looked up his campaign contributions and found out that Lammer's gives Wojtkowski all kind of money. So why are they opposed to it? Well, they're going to have to retrain bus drivers. We think they also are opposed to it because Wojtkowski just told them to oppose it. So now we're in this fight to get a school bus thing passed, and we probably won't win it until November. But that's what we do. And our leaders are learning on the south side the real world of who the aldermen are, which ones really care about the neighborhood, which ones we look up their campaign contributions, who are they accountable to. And I will tell you, when you do stuff like this, a lot of the aldermen don't want you messing in their business. They say, I was elected, go away, don't bother me. So it's a different concept of democracy. See, we believe in relational politics. We believe that if more people are working on something and more ideas are brought forth, you can build coalitions, you can bring people together, but you have to want that, you know? You have to want that. And some people just don't want you messing in their business. So anyway, all right. So that's our mission statement. If you look on the flyer, does everybody have a flyer? The folks that came in, we need where are the flyers? There we go. So we're an alliance of 50 organizations. You'll see the list on the back or on the front. We're churches, schools, nonprofits, small businesses, neighborhood associations. The world is becoming more secular, so we are not just faith-based. We attract a lot of people that are not religiously affiliated. We have Jews, Muslims, and Christians on the religious affiliated side, but we have a lot of people, particularly younger people, that don't belong to organizations. So we create ways for them to become members of Common Ground, and they do that. And so we're about 60% faith-based groups, we're about 40% secular groups. So people come to us either because of their religious tradition, which is mine, which is a social justice perspective on the world, make the world more just, more peaceful, more equitable, all of that. Or they come because they have a passion for making democracy work. So it's one of the two that inspires most people to get involved with what we do. We have a budget of $370,000 a year. 90% of it comes from what we call hard money, which is money that we own. It comes from our members, either from dues, Friends of Common Ground individual donors, or earned income from some of the enterprises that we've been able to create as part of our work. Only 5 or 10% comes from foundations. We take no government money, because when you take government money, they'll tell you what to do, and we want to remain politically independent, and that's part of our strategy. We have 3 full-time organizers, we have a part-time administrator, and our campaigns bubble up from the bottom. So we were involved in mortgage crisis. We have an anti-foreclosure campaign that we've been doing for about 5 years. That's what took us into the Nation Star battle with the Bucks. We've been rehabbing homes in Sherman Park. We're bringing back the housing market in Sherman Park. We've done 60 homes. There were 300 vacant foreclosed homes in Sherman Park before we started. We got it down to 150. And we as an organization, through an LLC we set up called Milwaukee Rising LLC, we acquire, rehab, and resell formerly foreclosed homes. And we put together $1 million revolving loan fund that we use to recycle the money and rehab the homes, and then when they're sold, we bring the money back. The second campaign was our Common Ground Healthcare Cooperative. I've owned a small business for 30 years, and one of my biggest moral outrages was the 30, 40, 50% rate increases that I get every year in health insurance. It's a total scandal, because before we started our co-op, your only choices if you're a small business owner for health insurance were United, Humana, and Anthem in this market. And they're all for-profit companies that really, really abuse small businesses. So I got angry enough to say, let's start our own. And through the Affordable Care Act, we got a $100 million loan, and we started our own cooperative. It's called Common Ground Healthcare Cooperative. 37,000 people buy our health insurance. We have a staff of 70. It's a $170 million a year business, and it's been going. It's still, you know, when you start a new business like that, it's still, you know, touch and go, and we have our touch and go moments, but certainly there was a hunger for people to get affordable health insurance, and ours is a cooperative, which means that the board of directors is elected by the members. We're also the only nonprofit insurance company in this market, and we're very proud of that. Our third campaign was around school reform. We're deeply involved in education reform. I can go into some of our campaigns with that in that regard. And then the biggest one, the one that we're most known for now, was that we're the only group in this town that took on the idea that the Milwaukee Bucks billionaire owners, the hedge fund owners from New York, ought not to get a subsidy from us. And actually the way the campaign started was, we knew that they were going to be coming for a public subsidy. So our original campaign was, if the Bucks get $250 million for subsidizing their new arena, and we were never opposed to the arena, because they need a new arena. It's a piece of junk. We took a tour of the Bradley Center. We've seen it. It's junk. All right, you're going to get a new arena, right? And you're going to get a $250 million subsidy. We want $250 million subsidy for the kids. And we went out at the whole of Milwaukee County, and we inspected every school athletic facility in the whole county. We had 150 volunteers go out and do this, and we wrote a report that said that these kids need better athletic facilities, and if you're going to subsidize the Bucks, we want money for the kids. And we were willing to go door to door to endorse a half-cent sales tax referendum. You'd have to be passed by the taxpayers. We were willing to go door to door to support that. We thought we could engender enough political support to say, hey, all right, we don't like this, but we're going to get this. And that was a tough discussion within our organization, because we had many, many people that said, oh no, the Bucks shouldn't get a dime. You know, and we said, okay, all right, you believe that, but what if we could leverage that to get this? Could you buy that? And they said, okay. So we finally had long, long conversations and a vote, and we agreed to do that. Well, when the new billionaire Edens and Lasry came in and bought the team, they said, forget it. We don't want to have anything to do with referendums. We're just going to go get it. And they did, because they had enough political pull through Ted Kellner and a lot of other people that are big, and Michael Graby, who are big donors to Walker, to get him to do it. And so they did it. And then they had enough push inside the Common Council to get the Common Council to do it, and then they had Abley, and so they got all their money. And the only lever that we came up with during the whole campaign was that Wesley Edens owns Nation Star Mortgage, which is one of the largest servicers of foreclosed homes in America. And we identified a lot of foreclosed homes that he owns. I mean, he doesn't own them. Well, some he does, but most of them he just services, and they're junk. And he had promised us a meeting early on. See, we always try to start our politics with relationships. So we had asked for a meeting with Wesley Edens as soon as we knew that he was coming to town. And, you know, we're trying to be kumbaya land and write them nice letters and talk to them. And they promised us a meeting in front of the media. Don Walker says, will you be meeting with Common Ground? This is Don Walker, the Journal Sentinel reporter. Oh, yeah, I'm going to meet with him. He never met with us. He lied. And we tried forever. So, okay, you're not going to play with us. You're not going to recognize us. We're going to attack you. And so we did. And we attacked them hard. We went to the Nation Star shareholders meeting in Dallas. We sent 4 of our leaders down there. And we have a sister organization in Dallas, so 20 of their people showed up. They panicked. They went nuts. And we got Jay Bray, the CEO of Nation Star, to agree to come to Milwaukee. Embarrassed him in front of his board of directors. We had to. He finally came. City put pressure on him. We put pressure on him. And we finally got them to do a deal with the city for about $31 million to do the right thing about some of their foreclosed homes. The campaign's not over. The city voted $80 million for the Bucks. We're coming back in the spring for $80 million for the neighborhoods. And that'll be our Neighborhoods Now campaign, which we're gonna kick off on November, January, and then in March. Okay, that's enough. Questions, reactions, comments about anything that I've said or didn't say?
Is Common Ground just a local organization or is it a national organization?
No, we're part of an international network of 60 of these common grounds around the world. Everyone is separately governed, everyone is separately owned, everyone is separately controlled, but we're part of the Industrial Areas Foundation network of these. So we have them in the United States, all over the country. We have them in the UK, in Germany, in Canada, in Australia, and now we're being asked to go to other European countries. So the people that we tap into in terms of relationships and power are people from all over the world, actually. Other questions, comments, reactions? I can talk about guns in a minute if you want.
Yeah. Boy, does this take me back.
Well, our campaign around, yes.
I'm smiling because this is so familiar to what I've done, and I know Dennis Briley from decades ago.
Oh, do you? Oh, really?
Say hello to him for me.
I will. What's your name?
I'm Chris Weber.
Okay.
I'll have to email him and.
Yeah, he's been real active with us.
Yeah, I bet he is. Anyway, a long time ago when I didn't have to dye my hair. I did this sort of stuff. I was out on the streets banging on doors.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Where did you do it?
In the city of Milwaukee, in our Almani neighborhood, Harambe.
Oh, yeah, sure.
You know, where I don't want to tell Jim where.
With whom did you do it?
Back then, we were called Work for Wisconsin and Sustainable Milwaukee. So I congratulate you and just keep up the good work.
Okay.
But it is a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, but there's a joy in it.
Yeah, it's fun.
I kind of miss it, but then again, geez, it was a lot of work.
Well, it is a lot of work, and we have people at all levels of participation.
Yeah.
So some people like me put, 20, 30 hours a week into it. Some people come to our delegates assembly on November 4th. We'll have 400 people there. And they just turn out twice a year for our assemblies.
Where is that?
It's going to be, you can come if you want. You'll see Dennis there. It's, here's the flyer if any of you want to come and see it. I'll pass these around. I don't have enough for everybody, but it's at Mount Mary. Mount Mary's a member of Common Ground, and they let us use all their buildings for free. So come, it's 7 o'clock on November 4th. It will last an hour and a half.
Is Allie Gardner any relation to John Gardner?
No, Allie's from Sun Prairie. She graduated from the University of Wisconsin, and she's been working with us for 2 years. We found her through our network. We're very keen on organizing, finding younger people that want to make a career out of organizing.
There's no money in it, though.
Oh yeah, there is.
Well, there wasn't when I was doing.
Oh no, you were in the slavery days. Our organizers make good money. We don't do slavery anymore. No poverty wages for our organizers. Our lead organizer makes $75,000 a year.
You're kidding.
No, I'm not kidding you.
Go back into it.
You should. You should. If you want people to stay in this as a lifetime career, you got to pay them. They got families. They got kids. They got college. Many of your people in this church make that kind of money. Why shouldn't organizers make that kind of money? Our younger ones make 30 to 50 to start, the younger ones. But then they move up. And our senior people make over 100,000. If you're going to make this into a profession, yeah, you got to pay them. I don't begrudge them any of that. Michael?
Yeah, can I just ask about the healthcare cooperative? So you talked about how you didn't like all those increases coming in every year, so now you've been able to, how long has that been in place?
We've been selling insurance for 2 years now. Okay. It took us 3 years to put it together, to organize, to make it happen. A lot of work. And I hope it succeeds. We'll know in the next year or so. Okay. But it was a lot of work. But see, it's not enough just to be angry, which I am all the time. It's not enough. You got to have a sense of humor. You got to play golf or do something else so you don't get depressed. But anger is like it's a good thing. It's a gift from God, I think, and it's the fuel that it's like rocket fuel, and it helps you be courageous, and it gives you the power to act. And so, you know, that's what we look for. People that want to change the world because they're angry about the world as it is not, and have a vision of the world as it should be. And the tension between those two, the world as it is and the world as it should be, generates this kind of anger that says, I'm going to do something about it. So we spent 3 years organizing a team of people to help put the co-op together. We wrote a 300-page proposal to the feds. And dealing with the feds is a nightmare. Oh my God, I can see why people hate the federal government. It is so difficult. And we got the $100 million that we needed as a loan. It's a loan. We have to pay it back to build our health insurance company. Because if you're going to counteract the power of United and Humana and Anthem, they have so much money and so much power. The only way we're going to do that is to try to build something that can stand up to these people. Because, you know, why should health insurance, why should people make profit on health insurance? That I'll never understand. To me, it's like making profit on the fire department. You got a fire department, fire station over there. Should they be making profit on your need for fire protection? No. Health insurance companies should be nonprofit, or it should be Medicare for everybody, in my book. But you know, that's not the world we're in. It's not the real world. But I don't agree with it. Anyway, given the political realities in which we are, we started the Health Insurance Cooperative and said, we're going to try to unbalance power in this region. We'll see. We'll see if we can pull it off. I don't know. We've still got a shot.
So
Talk about guns? Yes.
How many do you have involved or participating in it, and how many doctors do you have participating?
We have a staff of 70. We have 37,000 members who pay their premiums to us, and it's $170 million a year. And our primary healthcare provider is Aurora. So we have an integrated network with Aurora, and we got our best discounts with Aurora. See, this is also part of the real world of understanding this stuff. People don't understand how the healthcare system works. And they don't understand the power and the money that's involved in the healthcare system. It's incredible. And the discounts, negotiating discounts with health insurance providers, oh my goodness. If you want to learn how the real world really works and what it costs for a knee replacement and what you really pay for a knee replacement, it's just phenomenal.
That line 13 of my EOB is fought out.
I'm sorry, Pastor, I don't understand.
Line 13 on my explanation of benefits, that discounted, discount number,
Yeah, the discount
and it shows
number.
up, I'm like, I wonder how they came to that,
Yeah, the discount number. And the discount number is about power, and it's about politics. And it's about who has the leverage to get the best discount number. See? They control it. There's two systems in this city now, in this region, that control everything. And it's just amazing to me how it works. But see, we understand it. 7 years ago, we didn't understand it. Now we understand it. The first rule of learning power is to understand how power works, who's got it, and the best thing you can do to understand how power works is just figure out the money. As soon as you figure out the money and who's behind the money, you usually then know who you got to deal with. That's the key to it. All right, guns. So let me do guns. Jim?
I was just going to say the inflation in the healthcare system was caused by the insurance companies also.
To a great extent.
When they became too lazy to put out the schedule of benefits, and then went to the usual and customary, that was automatic inflation.
Yep.
If they would go back to the schedule of benefits, that an appendix costs this much, it costs this much.
That's right, and we had one of the highest insurance rates in the country here. Yes, we've historically had that. Now, there's been a lot of pushback and political pressure to drive it down, and it's been driven down in recent years. But until somebody organized it, and it was primarily a business coalition that pushed back. And they organize themselves. They're primarily most big companies here in Wisconsin are self-insured. So they don't use an insurance company except to do their claims. Marquette, Harley, all the big ones, they self-insure. So what they do then is they got themselves together into a coalition, and they went to the Auroras and the Wheatons and the Freighters of the world and said, we want a better deal, or we're not going to send our people to you. And that's real power. That's leveraging people against people. Equal power makes them. So medical inflation here over the last few years has dropped.
Well, the interesting thing, I had a conversation with Mike Bolger when he was president of the medical college, and he said, in all honesty, he would accept Medicare rates for everybody.
Yeah.
Because he could let loose his entire billing department.
Right.
Yeah. Because every billing department had to, every person was not just responsible for a company, but a specific plan within a company.
Yes, exactly. It was a nightmare.
And he says, you know.
They'd have 50 people in the billing department.
So if he could get back to just Medicare rates for everybody, he said that would have been just fine with him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mike's a friend of mine. Mike was on our co-op board when we started.
Mm-hmm.
He's a good man. He got what we were trying to do and helped teach me exactly what you said about how the world really works in healthcare. Connor?
So you were talking earlier about liar's poker and having a systematic understanding of the drivers of underlying injustice that that underpin the way the world is, rather than the way that we're called to create the world, which is a reference to the kingdom of God. We're called to build the kingdom of God, and the kingdom of God. John Dominic Crossan came here a number of years ago and gave a wonderful characterization of what constitutes the kingdom of God versus the kingdoms of this world, with Caesar versus Jesus, and his essence, the essence of his insight was, kingdoms of this world are, you get peace through domination or peace through conquer, in the case of Caesar, but in the kingdom of God you get peace through justice, which was the counter force that Jesus and his band of 12 brought into this world. But the question I have for you is, I'm an economist, so I see things from an economist's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also an outsider. I'm not from here originally. But if you have a look at the economic decline of particular inner city folks working in manufacturing companies in this city over the past 40 years, and particularly people of color, it's cataclysmic.
Mm-hmm.
Their economic fortunes just completely imploded.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another expression I love. Pope Paul VI, Pope John VI, I think it was, said, "If you want peace, work for justice."
Right.
And as you see these tens of thousands of people losing their jobs, and by consequence their houses in time, and having stress in their familial relationships, you see the murder rates start to climb precipitously in this community.
That's right.
And so the question I have for you, and I have a very high regard for the work that you do in Common Ground, and a very high regard for where it comes from, what the motivating impulse is. But do you feel called to work in the space of employment, and also the perverse, and I would even say in some cases demonic consequences or outcomes from our current economic order?
Mm-hmm.
Like you spoke about the gentleman who's a part owner in the Bucks. He's getting this enormous public subsidy, and he's one of the people who's still gaining from the economic implosion that came about from all of the shenanigans to do with subprime mortgages and
That's right.
Strange financial instruments that almost brought this country down. If we don't go to the very heart of that, are we only fixing things on the side or on the margins?
Yeah, right.
So it's a big question for you.
No, it's fine. I'm with you 100%. Yes, the answer is yes. We have been researching the employment issue in this region. We haven't built enough power to tackle it in the way that we want to. We do have some economic models that are different. For example, just one small piece. There are millions and millions of dollars that come into this region every year from the state, county, and federal government for job training programs. And it's wasted. And it's almost 90% ineffective. Because the people that they train don't get jobs. Now, the national network that we're part of has developed a concept which we've studied and we're not quite ready to implement it here, called Project Quest, where you don't take a person into a job training program until there's a job at the end. And it's a model that's been proven to be successful. And there's not a model like that here in Milwaukee. And we think there should be. Because there are many, 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 many people that want jobs, they don't want to be unemployed, and or go into the sub-economy. Somebody told me the other day that the drug industry in this region is $2 billion a year. So people are not going to starve. They're going to figure out a way to survive. We all do. And in many cases, they'll go into the drug economy because you can make boatloads of money there. It's dangerous. They want to get out. Many people want to get out of it, but they have very few alternatives. So we're not quite prepared to go into that. We know that's a vital issue. Tons of people that we talk to all the time talk to us about jobs. We've done our small part as we can. Our LLC employs primarily African American men to do the rehab on our houses, so we are employing people in that regard. Our co-op provides 70 jobs for people, so we are providing jobs in that regard. Many of them are minority folks. But the bigger issue is a political issue, which is that we are not using the millions of dollars that are supposed to be getting people real jobs connected with real jobs. And there are real jobs out there to be connected. The other piece to the jobs issue we've been researching is transportation. Some of the jobs that are out there are not available for people because they can't get to them. So we're keenly aware of that. We're committed to doing something about it. But like any organization, we can't do everything all at once. But it's on our radar screen, and it's a critical job for the African American men in this city are 50% unemployed. Right. And it does relate to the gun issue, because the gun issue is an issue that's primarily, we think, centered around the drug industry. Now, we're not prepared to stop the drug industry. But we have a national campaign going on right now with many of our IF affiliates around the country, where the political judgment is that if you could get gun control legislation, fine. But that political reality has not come to be. Even after Newtown, the president and Biden had this package, they were going to reasonable stuff, moderate stuff, it all got voted down. Our strategy has been this. The people that we want to hold accountable in the gun industry are the manufacturers. The gun manufacturers are the ones that are driving a lot of the distribution of guns in this world and in this country in particular. And there's two things we think they ought to be doing now that they are not doing. Number one, they should be promoting safe gun technology. There is technology out there that, just like on your phone, where somebody else can't use your phone, somebody else can't use your gun. And that's not being implemented. And it needs to be, but gun manufacturers need to be pressured to do it, and we need to create a market for it. So it's a somewhat political strategy, but it's a market-driven strategy. And the second is, these gun manufacturers are not holding the dealers to whom they give their guns accountable for their behavior. So Badger Guns, you've seen the lawsuit so if the gun manufacturers held Badger Guns accountable and said, you're not going to distribute our Glocks, because your procedures for background checks and your procedures for giving these guns out is not appropriate, they would change. And so our strategy is all around the country to go after the federal government, local governments, sheriffs. 40% of all the guns in America are bought by you and I, by the government. So that's a huge part of the market share. If Obama, because the Pentagon's about to buy a boatload of handguns and put it out for bid. If they would say that in the bid, there must be a strategy for your company promoting safe gun technology and meeting these criteria for distribution of guns to dealers that would shake up the industry. Shake up the industry. But we can't get the president to do it. We had meetings with lower level of his staff, and they just kind of blew us off. So we had a bunch of our people in front of in Lafayette Square Thursday, in front of the White House, saying to the president, stop whining. Because he went on the news the other day after the Oregon shootings and started talking about bemoaning he wants to do something but Congress won't. Well, he could through executive order force the Pentagon to do something like that. So the campaign is called Do Not Stand Idly By. It comes from Scripture. Do not stand idly by while the blood of your brothers. And it's great. And I don't know whether we'll win it, but it's our huge effort to move into national politics around something that's more winnable about guns than just trying to do gun restriction legislation, which causes a huge fight with the NRA. They're not liking this either. They'll fight this too, but so be it. Okay, that's our guns. Okay, we got 5 minutes. Other questions? Chris?
What relationship do you have with the Workforce Development Board?
Well, that's tricky. We did research on all the workforce development agencies in this region, and we found them to be
Well, they have the
lacking.
same goal you do as far as employment and training goal.
I know. And if we do move into Project Quest, we will talk to them. Seriously. Because there needs to be an effective alternative than what we've seen so far. So yes, we have talked to them. We're just not ready to move on that campaign yet. And we would talk to them. Because they may or may not like what we would do, frankly. But there needs to be a better strategy. Why train people when you give them a certificate and they don't have a job? They're not going to come. But if you guarantee them a decent job at the end, you'll get them. We've seen it in Chicago, in Iowa, in Texas, in other parts of the country where we've done this. It works. Okay?
Cross Lutheran has a employment program.
Yeah.
Which is very good at
Yeah.
at tracking, putting people in jobs.
Yes.
Actually working on creating jobs for.
Yes, we know the guy. He's a
Okay.
good man. We've met with him a number of times. One of our leaders, used to be one of our organizers, Rusty Borkin, has been working with him. It's our idea. I mean, not our idea, but it's the same idea as Project Quest, which is have a job at the end of the tunnel.
Right.
So you got to work to get the jobs. You got to negotiate for the jobs. Our group in Baltimore did this, where they got a guarantee of 1,000 jobs from Johns Hopkins University. Well, that's going to get people out of drugs if you can guarantee them a good job at the end. And we have stories like that. So yeah, we know that gentleman.
Okay.
He's a good man. It's a good program, and it should be, from what we can see, should be supported because it's the alternative that we've been talking about. So if we ever did move on this, we might partner with them to try to make it bigger and get some real job training money politically put into something like that that really works instead of some of the junk that it's going into. And Goodwill's a good organization. We developed a relationship with Goodwill around our Milwaukee Rising stuff. They do some pretty good job training work, and they employ people themselves. I don't know how much they get people jobs, but their strategy oftentimes is to employ people. So, okay, other questions, comments, reactions? All right, let's say goodbye to the camera. Bye, everybody. See you later. Have a nice day. Okay, thanks, everybody. Nice talking to you. Happy Sunday. My pleasure. Nice to meet you all. Enjoy the night.